For centuries, philosophers have tried to understand the mysterious nature of attraction, desire, and the relationship between men and women. Among them, Arthur Schopenhauer stood out, not for his optimism but for his brutal honesty. His views were controversial, even uncomfortable, yet they force us to confront truths that most people prefer to ignore. If you're watching this, it's not by accident. Maybe it's time you saw relationships through a deeper, more realistic lens. Schopenhauer believed that what drives human attraction isn't romance or ideals. It's instinct, survival, and nature's hidden design. He saw love not as a fairy tale, but as a biological force that keeps the human race alive. That perspective may sound cold, but when you look closely, it explains much of what we still experience today. The drama, the heartbreak, the passion, all of it follows patterns older than civilization itself. But here's where his message becomes powerful. Schopenhauer didn't share these ideas to make us bitter or cynical. He wanted to wake us up, to remind us that when you see the truth behind desire, you stop being controlled by it. You gain power over your emotions instead of letting them rule your life. This awareness, though uncomfortable, is what turns confusion into wisdom. So let me ask you something. Do you believe that love is a pure emotion or a natural force we simply obey? Share your answer in the comments, and if you want to hear more timeless lessons about attraction and human nature, write seductive wisdom below. Because sometimes the harshest truths are the ones that free us most. Arthur Schopenhauer didn't romanticize love. He stripped it bare. In his view, what we call falling in love isn't a divine feeling or a soulful connection, but nature's way of ensuring the continuation of life. He believed that attraction is not about individual happiness, but about the species' survival. In other words, you think you're choosing out of passion, but in reality, nature is choosing through you. It's an uncomfortable truth because it challenges everything we're taught about love. We grow up believing that love is about compatibility, emotion, and destiny. But Schopenhauer argued that these feelings are illusions designed by nature to trick us into doing its work, creating the next generation. Once the biological purpose is served, the illusion fades, which is why so many relationships collapse after passion fades. Yet there's a strange kind of power in understanding this. When you see that attraction isn't just emotional but deeply biological, you begin to free yourself from blind attachment. You can appreciate love without being consumed by it. You start to act with awareness instead of impulse. And that's where true control begins. Modern psychology supports parts of this view. Studies on attraction reveal that what we find beautiful often ties back to health, fertility, and genetic compatibility, things that ensure survival, not necessarily happiness. Schopenhauer saw this long before science proved it. So here's something to reflect on. When you've fallen in love before, was it truly emotional? Or was it instinct, dressed as affection? Think about it, and share your thoughts in the comments. Because the more we understand love's reality, the less power it has to control us. Schopenhauer believed that human desire has little to do with personal joy, and everything to do with the survival of the species. He argued that behind every spark of attraction is an ancient, unconscious force pushing men and women to continue life. You may think you're chasing love to find happiness, but in truth, desire is chasing you, using you as its instrument. This is a hard truth to accept because it dismantles the idea that love is purely emotional or spiritual. According to Schopenhauer, desire is not a gift, it's a trick. It promises fulfillment but often delivers restlessness. That's why, even after getting what you wanted, satisfaction rarely lasts. Nature doesn't care about your contentment. It only cares that life continues. Once its goal is achieved, the fire cools, leaving behind the emptiness many people mistake for love gone wrong. But Schopenhauer's message isn't just pessimism, it's awareness. Once you understand that desire is a cycle of longing and relief, you stop expecting it to bring eternal happiness. You start seeing it for what it is, a biological drive that can be controlled through reason and discipline. The Stoics and Buddhists shared a similar view. Freedom begins when you stop being a slave to desire. Modern science echoes this philosophy. Dopamine, the brain's wanting chemical, spikes not when you have what you desire, but when you pursue it. That's why humans are wired to chase, not to rest. Schopenhauer recognized this pattern centuries ago, warning us that pleasure and pain are inseparable because they come from the same source, endless craving. So ask yourself honestly, are you searching for love to grow or just to satisfy desire? The answer can change the way you see relationships forever. Share your reflection in the comments, because understanding the purpose of desire is the first step toward mastering it. Schopenhauer believed that one of the greatest deceptions in human life is the illusion of romance. He argued that love, as society presents it, is not truth. It's a story we tell ourselves to justify deeper instincts. The world sells us the idea that love will complete us, that someone out there holds the key to our happiness. But this illusion often traps us in cycles of dependency, disappointment, and confusion, because it blinds us to love's true nature, a temporary madness created by nature for its own ends. When you think about it, this illusion is everywhere. Movies, music, and social media glorify romance as the ultimate goal of life. We're taught that being single means being incomplete, and that finding love will fix everything. Schopenhauer warned against this delusion, explaining that the pursuit of idealized love often leads to misery, because we expect it to give us meaning that only self-awareness and discipline can provide. He wrote that people don't fall in love because they choose to. They fall in love because nature pushes them. The chemistry, the passion, the obsession. It all feels personal, but it's universal. Once that biological storm calms, reality sets in. Two people suddenly realize they were driven not by truth, but by illusion. That's why, as Schopenhauer observed, love is the most cunning of all natural instincts. Even today, modern psychology agrees. The initial stages of love, the excitement, the constant thinking about the other person, mirror addiction. The brain floods with dopamine and oxytocin, creating the illusion of perfection. But when that chemical high fades, what's left is the real relationship. Only those who see beyond the illusion can sustain love with awareness, not fantasy. So reflect on this. How much of what you call love is genuine connection? And how much is a story you've been taught to believe? Share your thoughts in the comments, because breaking free from illusion is the first step toward experiencing real conscious love. Schopenhauer's reflections on women were often misunderstood, even criticized. But beneath his harsh tone was a challenge: to understand, not to dominate. He believed that men who react emotionally to women's nature, either through anger or idealization, reveal weakness. True strength, he argued, lies in observation, restraint, and wisdom. When you understand human nature, both yours and hers, you stop being manipulated by it. He saw that women, like men, are driven by instincts shaped by survival. Attraction, emotion, and even conflict all serve biological purposes. Yet society teaches men to either idolize women or resent them. Both are extremes born of ignorance. Schopenhauer urged men to step away from illusion and view relationships through clarity, not obsession. The wise man neither chases blindly nor hates irrationally. He sees reality as it is and maintains his composure. Understanding women, therefore, isn't about control, it's about awareness. Women, like all humans, seek stability, emotional connection, and purpose. The problem arises when men expect women to fulfill what they themselves lack. Schopenhauer would say, "Master your own desires first." A man who knows himself is less likely to be deceived by appearances or false expectations. Think of this as emotional stoicism. Just as the Stoics taught mastery over anger, Schopenhauer's philosophy teaches mastery over attraction. True strength is not in chasing every impulse, but in maintaining balance. When you stop letting desire dictate your actions, your interactions become calmer, deeper, and far more genuine. So reflect for a moment. When you interact with women, do you act from need or from understanding? The difference defines your strength. Share your thoughts in the comments because awareness, not control, is what separates wisdom from weakness. Schopenhauer's philosophy can feel dark at first, but that's only because he refused to hide from reality. He believed that once you stop running from life's harsh truths about love, desire, and human nature, you begin to see clearly, and that clarity brings freedom. When you understand the game, you no longer play it blindly. You stop expecting perfection from people and you start cultivating peace within yourself. That's where wisdom begins. He wrote that life is a struggle between desire and disappointment, and that freedom comes when you break that cycle. The moment you stop expecting love, wealth, or pleasure to save you, you become untouchable. This doesn't mean rejecting life. It means engaging with it consciously. You can love without losing yourself. You can appreciate beauty without being enslaved by it. You can care deeply while still remaining calm. Modern psychology and philosophy echo this truth. Happiness isn't found in constant pleasure. It's found in acceptance. When you understand your emotions, your instincts, and your patterns, you no longer act out of need, but from choice. You transform pain into perspective, heartbreak into self-respect, and loneliness into growth. Schopenhauer's message wasn't to make you bitter, it was to make you awake. Once you see life as it truly is, you can finally live it with authenticity. You become someone who observes, understands, and chooses peace over chaos. That's not cynicism, that's power. So I'll leave you with this question. Are you ready to stop running from truth and start living with awareness? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if this message spoke to you, write seductive wisdom below. Because accepting reality is the first step toward mastering it. Schopenhauer didn't try to make love sound beautiful. He tried to make it honest. He wanted us to see the forces that drive us, not so we would hate them, but so we could rise above them. His message wasn't against women or love. It was against illusion. Once you see through the stories society tells about romance, you begin to understand yourself. And that understanding is freedom. So here's my question for you. Do you prefer the comforting lie or the uncomfortable truth? If you've made it this far, write seductive wisdom in the comments to show that you're someone who chooses awareness over ignorance. Because truth, even when harsh, is the foundation of strength. Remember this, understanding human nature doesn't make you cold. It makes you clear. When you see people as they are, not as you wish them to be, you move through life with calmness, dignity, and control. That's the real wisdom Schopenhauer left behind. Not bitterness, but liberation.